Hello, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Mohan Kumar TP, working for Government First Grade College, Department of Collegiate Education, Mysore. Now, I would like to share few things regarding business research in general, data analysis in particular. With reference to this, I would like to share my views regarding the data analysis. Before getting into data analysis, a researcher needs to identify what is the purpose of conducting a research and what is its goal and how needs to be accomplished and what are the data required for the particular research and how it has to be specified. Then what the data which we collect, it needs to be transformed, how the data needs to be transformed, and what are the sources of data sources, that is primary data and secondary data. In that primary data, is it a voice record or is it through questionnaire? Then after collection of the data, it requires a lot of processing. It requires data processing and data cleaning. With the help of this, it is easy to organize the data according to the needs and requirements of the research objectives. The processing of the data or cleaning the data is nothing but trimming, data trimming we call, and correcting the data or organizing the data, which is convenient for the analysis or for the convenient of the coding. After all these things, data analysis needs to be done. How the data infers what and what respondents given, positive or negative, with reference to it could be attitude or it could be their knowledge, with reference to this research objective. After analyzing the data, interpretation has to be done. The interpreted information needs to be communicated. With the help of this, researcher can recommend through suggestions. So this is a clear picture of data analysis process. In that, the major steps involved in data analysis is through questionnaire. The data which we collect through questionnaire from the respondents, it requires a lot of checking, editing, that we call editing. After editing the data, after the data is edited, coding needs to be done. Then after coding, the systematic classification is required. With all these things, the researcher needs to be tabulate certain information regarding graphical representation, then data cleaning, then data adjusting. With all such things needs to be involved in systematic data analysis. Let us have a introduction with reference to the data after collection has to be processed and analyzed in accordance with the research plan. This is essential for a scientific study and for ensuring that the data is relevant. Because many a time what happen, the size of the data is not more important than the relevancy of the data. So therefore, it requires a lot of trimming, organizing needs to be done. A researcher either misses the entries in the questionnaire or misses the enter responses which are not legible. This sort of discrepancies can be resolved by editing the schedule meticulously. That is the reason we claim that editing plays a very important. I can give an example as a film what we or film or Dharawahi which we watch. We are able to watch the beautiful movie on the screen It is so beautiful. The before in the behind the successful of every movie, there is a job which is backdoor, which is in the back entry. That is editing job will be done. The editing job will be done through lot of curiosity, lot of commitment, lot of experience, exposure, because editing plays a very important role for any research to be solved with appropriate findings. Because all the data which we collected from the field, it may not be required in the same way or in the same order. Sometimes addition is required, deletion is required, modification is required according to the needs and requirements of the research. And what exactly the meaning of editing? The process of checking, adjusting the data, readying them for coding and storage. Then, what exactly the purpose of editing? Editing is done to assure that the data are accurate, consistent with other facts, gathered, uniformly entered, as completed as possible, and have been well arranged to facilitate coding and tabulation. Editing, the fieldwork often produces data containing mistakes. How long have you lived at your current address? Say it's an example. The respondent gives us 48 years. What is your age if you ask? He may say 32 years. This answer contradicts the earlier responses. If the respondent is 32 years of age, then how could he or she have lived at the same address for 48 years? That needs to be checked. That needs to be checked. Editing can be classified as field editing and central in-house editing. In field editing, it is advisable that at the end of every field day, the investigator review the field forms for any inconsistencies, that is, illegible, non-response or incomplete questionnaire. We suggest on the same day because once the day is finished, it's very difficult to recall those memories. It is it is on the same day the researcher needs to be get back to the questionnaire and try to modify according to the requirement. The second important type of editing is central in-house editing. To detect unexplained value, cross-checking the response to troubleshoot the peculiar problems. Because most of the time, what the information we got it from the respondents may not be true. There you need to cross check the response to identify the peculiar problems as we have identified in the other example. Then to do an editing job, which I've already discussed, editing is not just a theoretical aspect, it is a dynamic subject and it is creative subject and it is an art it is an art of editing, because this editing job requires lot of patience, lot of exposure, experience, and technically sound. Because if the researcher is sound, good enough, and it is easy for him to edit effectively as well as efficiently. Researcher must be familiar with instructions given to the interviewers and coders. While crossing out an original entry, just draw a single line for legibility. They must make entries on the form in some distinctive color and in a standardized form. Because as and when you check, you need to identify which the responses you have checked. And if you identified any sorts of inquiries, you need to mark it with different colors. The last prerequisites is editor's initials, and the date of editing should be placed on each completed form. Means the editor is verified means he has to put his signature at the end, and he must, it's good to mention the date of the modification, because in future it may help. Okay, then what are the facilitating the coding process? While all the previously described editing activities will help the coders, several editing procedures are designed specifically to simplify the coding process, because coding will be done only after the editing job. If the editing job is efficient, effective, and systematic and scientific, then it's very easy for the coders to coding the responses systematically. For example, the respondents are often asked to circle responses. Sometimes a respondent may accidentally draw a circle that overlaps two numbers, because that particular question may require only one circle, but accidentally the respondents may put a circle in two responses. So, such ambiguity is impossible with an electronic questionnaire. These days, most of the research will be undertaking through e transactions or e questionnaire. So, there is a less ambiguity, because it's not impossible. It is impossible to have two circle, because as and when you circled, it is automatically they say yes, it's finished. So, there is no scope for further ambiguity. With all these things, the last but not the least, editing job is very, very powerful and dynamic. Why I call dynamic? Because it always fluctuates, it always changes according to the needs and requirements of the research. So, researcher needs to be smart enough to identify the right person to do a right editing to get the right research analysis. For this, thank you very much for your patience hearing. Thank you once again.